Hey guys, welcome to part 2 of mapping in Netradiant Custom. So just to jump right into it, what you have here is 4 windows. This is your 2D grid. This is where you're going to be doing all your mapping. Over here is your 3D camera, your texture browser, and your texture list. And this is also your console log. So any actions you do, you can pretty much see it right here. I don't really need this, so I'm just gonna bring this down. So if you're using the same preferences that I'm using, to create a brush, you're just gonna left click on the grid and hold, and that'll create a brush. You can use your mouse too to get around. If you hold mouse 2, you can get around like this. This little blue guy right here, that's your 3D camera. So if you right click once in the 3D camera window, you can look around. If you hold right click, you can strafe up and down, left and right, to give you a better understanding. Let's find our brush first. So again, hold right click, strafe left and right, up and down. If you just right click one time, you can look around in combination with WASD to move. Again, hold R2 to strafe up and down, left and right. Quick shortcut, or you can also use your mouse wheel. Quick shortcut, let's say for example, your camera's way over here, and you want to jump to this brush really quickly, just select it and press tab. And it puts the camera right in view. Escape to deselect. To select a brush, it's left click. Or if you want to select multiple brushes at once, hold shift, left click and hold, and you can select multiple brushes. For example, like this. So you select one with just left click. Hold shift, left click, and you can select multiples. Backspace to delete. So I'm going to press Control Tab to switch the view, drag it up, make it thinner, Control Tab again, and again. So this is your default view, this is your top-down view. That's your top-down view. Control Tab, you're looking at it from the back, just like this. Control Tab again, and you're looking at it from the side. So we want to work with in top down. So what I'm going to do is create a floor. And I'm just going to drag this out. Escape to deselect. So I'm going to select a brush. I want to make a wall. So I'm going to change the view one time. Press spacebar to duplicate the brush. And I'm just going to drag it up. Spacebar again. And we have a floor and 2 walls. Now for another quick shortcut. So you can create a new wall using the same height as these 2 walls by first selecting it, deselecting it, and creating a brush. Just like that. Now if I were to select this one, deselect it, you can see it creates it with the same height. Now this also works in different views as well. So let's say I want a brush the same width as this, same length, I'm sorry. Oh, it's going to select it, deselect it, you're going to create a new brush, and there you go. And the same thing works this way. Create a brush, creates it the same width as the one you selected. So I can do this. That works too. So we have that there, and we're going to create another wall. This will be our end wall. Deselect, select the floor, spacebar, bring it up, deselect. Now, this map is airtight. You do not want any small little holes in the map. That's going to cause a leak, and the leak in the map is the worst thing you can possibly have. So for example, I'm going to switch to grid 0.125. I'm going to press X for the clipper tool, and I'm going to cut this little tiny hole. Now this little tiny hole that you can even barely see will cause a leak in the map. You do not want leaks, so which is why I recommend using such a high grid size, so you don't make little mistakes like that. Okay, so we got our airtight room. I'm going to add a player start. So you right click on the grid. These are all your entities you can place in game in your map. So right now we just want a player. So you go to info, player start. And now for reference, this player box right here is your actual player. So your player model sits in here. This is your hitbox, just to give you a reference on, how to make a room. You don't want to make it super big and you don't want to make it super small. For example, if so I'll create another room for you really quick. Put that at peace of mind. So we're going to create a room like this. You can also hit this button, make a room. So I'm going to jump here real quick. Now as you can see, this is massive. So I'm going to throw in a player start. I'm going to drop him down to the floor. Now, what looks tiny, when zoomed out, it's actually pretty massive. So we don't want this. You don't make any super huge rooms. Nobody likes that. So I'm just going to quickly delete this by holding Shift, right click. Selects everything that in that window. You can also use it to deselect things. Right? No, I guess you can't. My mistake. So just to select, backspace to delete. Now again, I'm going to show you the shortcut I told you guys about. Select a brush, press tab, and you jump right to it. You can also do Control, mouse 3, and you can move anywhere you want. So I'm holding Control, mouse 3 right now. So let's say I'm way over there. That's our little room that we created. I want to go to the player start. I'm just going to press tab, jump right to it. All right, with that out of the way, we're going to create some triggers. So you can copy this one, drop it there, or you can just create a new brush, doesn't matter. You're going to right click it with it still selected. Go to trigger, multiple, deselect it, right click, target, start timer. Deselect it, select the trigger first, always select the trigger first. Then select the start timer. Control K, and now you see a arrow going from the trigger to the start timer. So whenever a player hits this trigger, it's going to start the start timer. And we're going to do the same thing for a stop timer. Actually, before we do the start timer, so we don't forget. So by default, the trigger has a default wait time of half a second. You can change that manually by pressing N with the trigger selected. Here is all your info. All entities have this info. I'm not going to go over every single thing. You guys just got to read it. So our wait time is by default 0.5 seconds, half a second. I'm going to change this to -1. Press enter. Now you can see it entered right there. Escape to deselect. So now what that means is anytime the player hits its trigger, it's only going to activate once to start the start timer. You won't be able to reset it until you either die or kill yourself. So we're going to go to the end here. We're going to create a stop timer. So you can select it here, trigger, or you can just right click, trigger, multiple. It'll automatically make it a trigger brush. So deselect, right click on the grid, target, stop timer, deselect, select the trigger first, trigger brush first, then select the stop timer, control K, and you can see trigger brush is linked to the stop timer. Now for this one, you don't have to set a wait time to it because you only need to hit this trigger once to stop the stop timer. Hitting it multiple times is not going to do anything, so there's no point in changing it. And I'll show you guys how to add a trigger checkpoint. So we're going to throw one right in the middle of the map. Again, trigger multiple, target checkpoint, select the trigger first, then the entity, control K. Again, you don't need to set a wait time to this. You only need to hit it once. And now we can add some weapons. So what you can do is you could link it to the trigger. Well, I'll show you how to do everything. So we're gonna link it to the trigger. So when you hit this trigger, it's gonna give you a weapon. So we're gonna go to target, give, deselect. We're gonna go to weapon, go to plasma gun, deselect. And when you spawn, we're gonna give the player a item. We're gonna go environment suit, which is the battle suit. We're gonna press N. Okay, so I'll show you what suspended is in a minute. So by default, the environment suit has a wait time of 120 seconds. That's 2 minutes. So if we don't want it to respawn, again, -1, and a count of 30 seconds. But I don't ever want it to run out, so I'm just gonna put a bunch of 9s in there. So it's gonna take that many seconds. And then what you can do is, okay, we don't want it that high. So yes, so let's say for example, you want it at this height, so the player can't overjump it. You want to hit the suspended button. What suspended does is it's going to stay at this height. If you uncheck suspended and you put it at, let's say, this height, Quake 3 is just going to drop it back to the floor, regardless of where it is, without the suspended spawn flag. So it's going to put it right inside the player, so the player will spawn on top of it, and it will automatically give him a battle suit. Okay, so we're going to go back to our plasma gun. Okay, it already has the trigger multiple set. We don't need to do that again. We're going to select the target give, control K. From the target give to the plasma gun, control K again. Now make sure you do it in that exact order. Trigger to target, target to weapon, or target to item. It doesn't matter. It just has to be in that order. Let's say you do trigger multiple again before linking target. Watch the arrows here. Trigger multiple. It deselected the original target start timer. You don't want that. So just like this. And now you can see how it's linked. Where these are placed doesn't matter. The player is never going to see them. This is strictly for rating only. You may just want to group them in a way so that it's easy for you to understand how they're linked. Okay, so we got weapons, we got an item. So we want to give this trigger haste to. What you're going to do is go to item, haste, deselect it, target give first, then the item, control K. There you go. So I'm going to press N to pull up the entity window. Okay, so this is all the information in this item. There's nothing, no wait time. This is all default settings. So wait time is 120 seconds. We're going to change that to 5 seconds. And the count is 30 seconds. So you get 30 seconds worth of haste. Actually, I'm going to make this fucked up. I'm going to make this 5. I'm going to make this -1. So you can only get it once. So when the player hits this trigger, it's going to start the start timer. It's going to give you 30 seconds. Nope, it's going to give you 5 seconds of haste. 50 ammo. And we're going to change this to... Actually, I made a mistake. So this one, the wait time doesn't matter because it's linked to the trigger. So the trigger already has a weight of -1. So the weight on this linked haste doesn't matter because it's linked to the trigger. So I can put this weight to 1 second. It's not going to make a difference. So we'll just say 50 because, like I said, once you hit this trigger, it's going to give you haste, plasma, and you can't go back and hit that trigger again because it is set to, well, it was set to -1 before I did trigger multiple again. So just make sure you're aware of that. Okay, so got that out of the way. Now let's say when the player hits this trigger, you want them to lose all your power-ups and weapons. So it's going to right-click, target, init, deselect, trigger first, then it's entity, control OK. So now when the player hits this trigger, it's going to trigger a checkpoint, and press N to open up the entity window. Now you can choose what you want it to do. You want it to keep armor, keep health, keep weapons, keep power-ups, holdable, and remove machine gun. You can place one on the player itself when you start the map. So in this case, we want to keep power-ups and lose everything else. And Netradiant has features that you won't find in other versions of Radiant. So I can set this specific entity to be not work in VQ3 by setting the what is this called? The key to not CPM1. So it would be not CPM1. So not CPM1, when set to 1, entity will not spawn in CPM physics. It's a pretty neat feature, and I like it, but I don't want it in this one. Okay, so we got start timer, checkpoint, stop timer. Now to load up quick textures, so we're using the common set of textures right now. Now what I can do is just double click here and open it. But let's say I'm using a different texture set and I'm using 50 different texture packs. I'm looking for a specific texture pack. What I can just do really quickly is double click on any one of those textures and it'll load that entire texture pack for me. So double click and it loads everything in the common texture pack. So for this tutorial, I'm going to use EgyptSock. Again, so if you see a drop-down menu like this, double clicking the name is not going to do anything. You want to click the drop-down and then select the folder. Okay, so trigger brushes are in the way for me, so I'm going to filter them out. Everything up here is all your filters. And you can also view them from here, view, filter, and you can filter everything out. So we're just going to get rid of filters because they're in my way, just like that. If I'm going to get rid of the entities, I can do that right here. Short hotkey is Alt-2. So I'm going to press Alt-2 on my keyboard. Just like that. So I'm going to apply floor texture, wall textures, and add some lights. So floor texture. This is all right. Okay, so to apply a texture, there's multiple ways to do it. You can select a brush and left click on the texture. This is to apply it, but that's going to apply it to all faces. I don't want that. I don't like doing that. Another way of doing it is Control Shift left click. That'll select the face only. As you can see, just the one face. Nothing else is selected. I press mouse 1 here, and it applies it. Again, I'll show you. Control Shift left click. Apply a texture. Escape to deselect. We're going to go to another texture we'll use as a wall. This is perfect. Another way to apply textures, select a texture first, press Control, mouse 3 to paint it on. And you can also paint multiple faces at once. So I'm going to hold Control, mouse 3 and just paint it. It also gets very detailed too. So like, for example, let me just do this real quick. I'll go over this in a second. So let's say I want this specific fitment on this texture to be spread out through the other walls. I'm going to press mouse 3 on this specific texture right here. Press mouse 3 once. I'm going to hold Control, mouse 3, and it copies and pastes it exactly how it is there to there. There's also like maybe like 5 or 6 different shortcuts and methods of applying textures that in very specific manners. I don't know all of them off the top of my head, so I'm not going to go over them. But there's a lot of shortcuts with the mouse. Control, Shift, mouse 3 to apply textures. You just got to mess with it. And again, everything can be found in shortcuts. Okay, so we got our floor, 2 walls. I don't want this huge like that, so I'm going to mouse 3 here, Control mouse 3, Control mouse 3. And I'm going to make a ceiling texture. Actually, I'm going to use a grate for a ceiling. So to make a grate, so right now I'm in this texture pack. So all these other ones that I'm using won't show up here. So I'm going to press Control A to show the ones that I'm using. I'm going to double click here. I'm going to change this one to non-solid, or you can use no draw. It doesn't make a difference. It does the same thing. I'm going to make that to no draw. I'm going to select the face only. I'm going to go back to floor. And I'm going to make this a grate so players can see through this. Now, if this is a shader, you can tell it's a shader because of the white border around the texture. See, there's a white border here, and there's no white borders around these. So that lets you know it's a shader. Deselect that. Actually, I'm going to I'm going to add some trims. I'm going to select these walls. Another shortcut is if you need to select these 4 walls and you don't want to manually do it, again, you can just press mouse 3, select the texture, press Shift A, and that selects all 4 walls. So I'm going to press X to use the clipper tool. I'm going to trim off the top. So when you see these 3 lines, where I cut, and those 3 lines, if I press Enter, it'll delete all of that. So if I press Enter now, it's gone. If I do Control Enter, it switches it. So if I press Enter now, all that will be gone. but I just want to split it. So I'm going to press Shift Enter, and I made 2 separate brushes out of that one. So I'm going to make that into a light trim. And I am going to use this one. Again, Control Mouse 3. And I don't want the double line. I don't like that. So I'm just going to, again, Shift A. I'm going to change the grid size. And just like that. And again, Mouse 3, so I select its texture, Shift A, drag it up. Now I'm going to, again, Mouse 3 to select that one, Shift A. I'm going to do spacebar to copy it. And I'm going to do CSG subtract, Shift U. I don't recommend using CSG subtract, especially as a new mapper. You can create a lot of tiny brushes if you don't know what you're doing, and you do not want that. So I'm going to hit Shift U, and as you can see, I subtracted 4 brushes. My result is 4 fragments from 4 brushes. So if you're doing it incorrectly, like we'll do something like arbitrary like this. Create a random ass brush, wherever it is. So I have this random brush in this wall. I'm going to do CSG subtract. And look how many brushes it created. It created 7 fragments from 1 brush. So it's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 brushes from 1 shitty CSG subtract. That's why I don't recommend doing it unless you're doing clean lines like that. Okay, so I'm going to add a little bit more details. So I want vertical lines going up. So I'm going to split it there. I'm going to split it there. I'm going to select this texture. So like pressing mouse 3 to select it, as you can see, it has the red outline around it now. I'm going to press Control mouse 3 to paint it on. I'm going to select the face only, Control Shift left click. I'm going to press G to pull up the transform tool, the UV tool. That's this button right here. And I'm going to take the circle and I'm going to rotate it. As you can see, it was rotated. Now you can also, this is a very powerful tool. You can stretch it, shrink it. You can change the point of rotation. So if I want to rotate it from that corner, I absolutely can. If I want to rotate it from the center, I absolutely can. Very powerful tool. And obviously, Control Z to undo, Control Y to redo, Control C, Control V, copy paste. Those all work. So this is not lined up properly. I'm going to flip it vertically. Flip it horizontally, my mistake. Just like that. And now I'm going to use the edge tool by pressing E. I'm going to bring this edge down. Bring this edge up. I'm going to do the same here. I'm going to bring okay, this is not lined up properly. I fucked up. I had it right the first time. You looking nice and flush, except for this one. So what I'm going to do is flip this vertically. just like that. I'm gonna flip these vertically. And then this is a little bit more complicated, but I like a flush look. I'm gonna get off just like that. You know what? This texture sucks because it's not symmetrical. That's not gonna work. But this one will. So what I'm gonna do real quick, I'm gonna do find and replace. So I'm gonna find this. I'm gonna find all these textures using this one. So I'm pressing mouse to just select it here. I'm gonna replace it with this one. Press apply, and just like that, it's done. So I guess you could say I have OCD because it's gonna bother me unless this is completely lined up. So I'm just gonna keep messing with it until I get it exactly where I want it. That looks fine. And again, I'm going to do the same thing here. I mean, it's not perfect, but you get the idea. So again, I'm going to do this side now. Again, Control Mouse 3. And I'm going to do this edge. And now if I want to paste this over here, I'm going to do the same thing I did before. I'm going to select all these brushes. Control Tab, Spacebar. I'm going to rotate it clockwise. You can do it counterclockwise. It doesn't make a difference. And I'm going to CSG subtract it, Shift U. Subtracted 8 brushes, 0 fragments from 3 brushes. That's a great thing. Completely overlapped the old set. So I'm going to press H to hide it. And there's nothing there. Perfect. Shift H. And it shows hidden. Okay, so this is pretty well lit. So I'm going to press Shift left click on the shader. It's going to pull up the shader file for me. You can see where it is located. It's in a PK3 using UT. I'm not going to pronounce that. No, PK3. So this shader is in a PK3 file. If this was a shader in my scripts folder, I can edit it here from directly from here. But since this is in a PK3, I can't make any changes. If I go to one of my texture packs, we will do this one right here. So as you can see, I'm in the actual shader itself, not in a PK3 or anything. This is it. This is my actual shader. So I can go in here, I can make changes just like that. I can press save and it'll save it in the actual shader itself. So that's a pretty handy tool. So I'll show you real quick. Test, save, close, shift left click. There it is. Save, close. Okay, so I'm gonna turn entities back on so I can see where my player is. Okay, so right now the player is looking to the right and my hand looking forward. So I'm gonna select it, press N. Under angles, it changes to 90. And now he's looking forward. Again, you can change this to 270. He'll look backward. 180 to the left. 0 to the right. 90 to the forward. Okay. Let's throw some lights in here. So just right click on the grid, select light, Just press OK. Now, my general rule of thumb for lights is you have 3 spheres. You have this outer one, you have this second one, and you have the middle one, the inner one. So the only one I'm looking at is the second sphere right here. My rule of thumb is you do not want it touching walls. You don't want it touching walls, floors, or ceilings. You want to find that sweet spot. To increase the size, you're just going to left click and drag. Click and drag, just like that. So what I like to do is keep at least 32 units of space between the light, floor, and floors, walls, and ceilings. So I think that's perfect as it is. And also you have to remember this light, this texture right here produces light as well. Maybe not this one specifically. Okay, yeah, this one doesn't. I don't know why. But yeah. You would say Q3 map surface light and then some number. Okay, that one doesn't produce any light, but you get the idea. So we're gonna add some lights. You got one there. So again, I'm gonna press Shift X. This pulls up your little crosshair thing. This helps me remember where the hell I'm looking at. So we got 64 units of spacing here. Roughly 64 units there. And 64 units there. So that is perfect in my eyes. So again, spacebar. So I'm just lining them up so they're nice and even. Just like that. Now you can see this one is way too close to the wall, so I'm just gonna, you can either delete it or make it smaller. Like that. I'm just gonna delete it because I'm gonna add a skybox. And you can also change the color. Select a light, press K, and by default it's white. Now you can't make textures black or dark gray. It'll just default it to white or the closest color next to it. So we'll keep first one, this is the first one, we'll keep that white. We'll go red, green, keep hitting the wrong key, blue, now we'll do pink, and we'll do like a baby blue, yellow, and for shits and giggles I'm going to show you how to make a black light. So you're going to press N to pull up the entity window, and we're just going to add a negative value to this. That'll give you a black light. Okay, we're going to add a skybox. So I'm going to select these. Actually, I'm going to select this. I'm going to select the trim. Just bring it out of here. I don't feel like doing all that. Alright, never mind. Okay, so this is what I'll do. This is a grate, so I'm going to drop it down to there. No draw, yep. I'm going to create a skybox. And I'm going to use from my skybox pack. Space Engine. Game, that looks pretty awesome. Okay, so we got skybox that gets off the sun. White, red, green, pink, green, blue, pink, yellow, black. Stop timer. So I'm going to go ahead and compile this real quickly. I'm going to save it first. And we are going to rename this to that right there. So test 202. So your build menu is going to look a little bit different because it uses all stock settings. So I'm just going to run test quick and very crude plus no OB. So disconnecting, connection closed. No load up Quake. Okay, so we have, I'll run it for you. So we just spawned on top of environment suit. Didn't work for some reason, we'll fix that. We hit the start timer. We got our 5 seconds of haste. Now, can't reset the start timer. Can't also pick up the haste again. You see white light, red light, green light, blue, pink, yellow, and this is our black light. This is our grate texture. Looks great. No pun intended. Our skybox texture looks amazing. Gotta fix that. So I'm gonna go select that one, press N. Wait, -1. Okay. I don't know why that's not working. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna link the player directly to a target give. Target give. So player gets target give. And target gives goes to item suit. Press F5 to recompile. Might be F4 for you guys. I don't know. Check your settings, your shortcuts. Dev CPM again. Why isn't this shit working? Maybe I linked it backwards. It's not linked properly. How do I link this again? Excuse me 1 second. This one? Yeah. So player to give. Yeah, I linked it correctly. Why isn't it not working? Okay, I don't know why it's not working, but you get the idea. Again, you don't have to do it like that. You can just link this to this target give right here. That'll work as well. But let me see, is there anything else? Now let's say we don't want this great at all, doesn't look that great. Delete it, recompile. Yeah, it looks a lot better without the grate. Now, mind you, there's a black light here, but you have to remember there's a sun in that in the skybox giving off light. So, which is why it's not black here, but it is black where the sun can't reach, because the sun is right there. Because the sun is right there, the sun does not reach here, so therefore it is black. Except that spot, I don't know what the fuck. Maybe I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about, but yeah, you get what I'm saying. So yeah, that's how you make your first room or any additional rooms. You got your start-stop timers, your checkpoints, lights, weapons, items, texturing, some minor details. The easy way to add details is simply by giving depth to the map. So instead of having very flat walls like this, maybe you want to push these in slightly. Just create some depth. You can maybe add some bricks, for example. So I'm going to add some bricks. Maybe you want to have some bricks sticking out like randomly, like this. Small little details like this will just give the map depth. Depth will make your map look nicer rather than just 4 straight walls. Forgot to show you guys this. This is your texture subset bar. So let's say you have like 100 textures loaded, and you want to look for a specific one. So we're gonna load up Egypt sock. Now let's say I'm looking for a solid grade 3B. You know what it's called, but you can't, for whatever reason, you can't find it. You can just type in here 3B, and you're gonna find the one you're looking for. Or you can type in just S. Anything that has the word S, the letter S in it, is gonna pull up. Or T. Anything that has T in it is gonna be pulled up. Stringed words is what we want to go for. So if you're looking for trigger, well, trigger is not in the Egypt sock pack, so you're gonna have to do Control A, and there's your trigger. All right, guys, that's all I got for today. I think I pretty much covered all the basics for mapping. If I missed anything, I'll do it in the next video. Until then, I'll see you guys later.